Okay, my friend, and welcome to the next episode in the Red Delta Project podcast and live stream Q&A here on the Red Delta Project YouTube channel, where we take a fundamental approach to fitness to simplify diet and exercise, giving you more power, control, and freedom over your healthy lifestyle. As always, I'm Matt Schifferly for the Red Delta Project, and today's episode is sponsored by the RDP Library. All of the books that I've written, including many more to come, including Grind Style Calisthenics, which also includes the free annual year-long Grind Style Calisthenics workout program, micro workouts, overcoming isometrics, and smart bodyweight training. Links to the entire library is down below, both in Kindle and paperback format on Amazon and PDF over on Teespring, where you can also pick up some of these RDP merch like the t-shirt that I'm wearing now. So today's episode is all about small habits that make big things happen over time. Because when it really boils down to what works best when it comes to fitness, a lot of times we get pulled towards these enticing, seemingly fun and exotic things you see on the internet, like the 90-day challenges and the extreme new weird tricks and all of that sort of idea. But when you really get down to what works best, as far as the habits that produce the best results and results you can keep time and time again, it's the small, simple, albeit sometimes even quote unquote boring habits that often don't get a lot of play when it comes to attention on social media. And that's why I feel like I need to warn people a lot of times when it comes to these sorts of habits, because most people will never take these sorts of things very seriously. If you're listening and you're like, okay, what's something like a fancy thing or an exotic thing I can do? You're going to be disappointed, because in reality, most people get the best results from things that just don't look fancy. In fact, you could even say they are just flat out boring habits to talk about at a party. But that's a good thing, because in order for you to stand the best chance of getting the results you want, it's not going to come from something extreme or exotic or fancy or expensive and stuff. It's going to come from very mundane habits. And the reason is simple. It's because there's nothing I can really give you that's going to make a lot happen over the next week. There's almost nothing I can give you as far as diet or exercise advice or tips. It's going to really move the needle a whole lot in the next month to 6 weeks. Now, if you go extreme, you could make something seemingly happen, like maybe lose 10 pounds or something, but it's kind of a smoke and mirrors approach. It's not really that effective, not really going to produce that much of a long-term impact. Instead, the best chances you're going to have at getting what you want is to have habits that you can maintain relatively easily for years at a time. I always have the 3 to 5 principle, right? After 3 to 5 days, ask yourself, can I stick to this diet or exercise habit for the next 3 to 5 weeks? 3 to 5 weeks, 3 to 5 months, then ask yourself again, can you do it for the next 3 to 5 years? At each step of that way, the answer should be, oh yeah, no problem at all. This is not very hard to stick to. You're not going to have that sort of thing from the latest intermittent keto, paleo, extreme celebrity challenge and stuff. No, in fact, those sorts of things, they're fun to start off with initially, but they get harder over time. And when I ask people after a few weeks, could you do this for the next 10 years with relatively little effort? They'd be like, well, if I really set my mind to it, if I really have willpower, no, you should be able to easily follow the best habits on your worst days. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about. And that's the thing we're going to be discussing in today's episode. Because if it's a habit that you can stick to relatively easily, it stands the best chance of helping you get the results that you want. So let's see what we got coming on here. We got folks coming on. Weirman coming on, JMB, saying that thanks for applying methods. It got rid of elbow and shoulder pain. Very, very happy to hear that. In fact, let's start it off there, shall we? One of the best things you can ever do for increasing your chances of effective workouts is getting rid of pain and discomfort. It's maybe it's an American thing. Maybe it's a macho thing. I used to be in a place emotionally, literally, where I would purposely do things that would make me as uncomfortable and in some cases in pain if possible. I would ride my bike during the hottest parts of the day, and I would be using like no water, and I would ride my bike barefoot so my feet would get all cut up and stuff. Joint pain and stuff. You hear people talk about, oh, my knees and this and that. And it's like, well, what are you doing about it? Well, if I get a good warm up and I ingest a bottle of Advil beforehand, and if the stars align, I can kind of get by. No, we want to embrace comfort. We want to embrace the ability to remove as much pain and discomfort as possible. And the reason for it is simple, because everything you do takes a certain amount of effort. Fitness is not going to be easy. Exercise and changing habits and stuff, this is going to be difficult. And every ounce of effort that you have to put towards uncomfortable running shoes, uncomfortable clothing, pain in an elbow or a shoulder, stiffness, tightness, all of these things only hold you back because they pull attention and energy in towards dealing with those things instead of doing the things that's actually going to move the needle for you. I've been using a new stretching technique, which is, it's not terribly new, actually. It's very much in line with the shifting phase that we employ in grind style calisthenics. I'm using a lot more for my hips, to open up my hips a lot more before my Taekwondo classes. Well, just basically every single day. And I'm noticing a huge difference in my ability to use my legs for everything, especially like my Taekwondo. Today, I was doing my daily TKD kicks and stuff like that. And I noticed it's like, I'm doing the same exercises, but I'm not even close to expending the same amount of energy. Like I do my patterns and my drills and stuff. And it's like, I'm not nearly as out of breath and like, oh my gosh, this is so hard as I usually am. The reason is simple. I'm getting rid of some of that discomfort. I'm pulling off the brakes that have been holding me back for so many years. So get rid of pain. And for the love of God, do not diagnose joint pain on the internet. I get lots of questions from people saying, my shoulders hurt, my elbows hurt, my wrists hurt and stuff like that. I could take a guess, but let me know it is a guess about what needs to be done. See someone in person, know what's going on, and fix it. Get it out of your system if possible. Of course, there's always scenarios where it's like, I've got 15 screws in my wrist from a motorcycle accident or something. Like, okay, that's kind of hard to get around sort of thing. So maybe you would use something, tools or things to minimize pain and discomfort when exercising. But the bottom line is get rid of pain. Hell, get rid of discomfort. If you're wearing a set of running shoes when you're going out for a run and you're like, they're okay. If I run more than 5 miles, they start to get a little bit sore in the ankles. And no, get rid of pain as much as possible. Comfort is going to help you at every step of the way. And even the smallest things you can do for that will improve. Comfortable clothing, comfortable shoes and equipment apparel and stuff like that. I have ergonomic grips on my mountain bike. So now every single time I ride my mountain bike, my hands are more comfortable. That improves literally every single mountain bike ride I'm ever on, due to just these little different grips, because they give me a more comfortable grip. It's that simple. Find these little ways to improve comfort in your endeavors, and that's going to help you because it's not going to make it easier. You just put your effort and attention towards the things that matter more. So when I'm on my mountain bike and I've got my new grips, does that make mountain biking easier? No, it makes it more comfortable because now I can put that attention towards actually riding faster. As they say in mountain biking, it never gets easier. You just get faster. And that's exactly what's going on. Good morning, Michael. Good to see you, my friend. Lewis is coming on. Let's get to some questions here. Matthew Lewis, excuse me. Hey, Matt, been consistently getting 2 workouts a week, progressing the moves for the past 8 weeks. Congratulations. Still feeling worked, but at the end, not feeling sore the next day anymore. Should I progress harder? No, you can progress as you can. For sure, but don't worry about the soreness thing, okay? So this is the next thing that I want to address, is simple things that can make a big difference. And what that is covered in my book, Micro Workouts. Now, micro workouts, the whole point of micro workouts is not quick little circuits or anything like that, although there's some strategies in there on how to make something happen in literally 3 minutes. but to recognize what the actual objective of your training is. When we exercise, when you are training, I'm not talking about if I go for a walk in the woods to de-stress and be one with nature and stuff, that's not training, right? That's just me recreating. Training is when we are doing some sort of physical activity with the purpose to teach the body to perform at a higher level. That is the single solitary purpose of every training session. I don't care if you're trying to juggle bowling balls, powerlifting, or get better at ping pong. The entire point of any form of physical training is I'm trying to make my body do something better. Okay, that's the whole point. That is the single objective. Knowing that is key, because otherwise you get stuck into the idea of I'm trying to stress my body. I'm trying to work myself hard enough. And what ends up happening is you end up having more of a correlation versus causation relationship to feedback you get, like muscle soreness. Or sometimes people who come to me and they're like, but I'm not sweating. Like, don't I need to sweat in order to burn fat? Or don't I need to have a certain sensation going through my muscles at the end of the workout? Like, they have to be so worked that I can barely lift my arms and stuff. We get a lot of these correlative feedback mechanisms, and we think that means the workout was effective. When instead, what you really need to be doing is, did I do something better? Was I performing and using my body to a higher level? Now, you said yourself here, Matthew, that you were progressing the moves for the past 8 weeks. So I'm assuming that means that you're progressing how you're doing things. Bigger range of motion, maybe shifting your body weight to one arm or the other, maybe lifting more weight, maybe lifting more repetitions. Good, awesome. That's the stuff that's telling you your workouts are working, not whether or not you're sore or not. Your muscle soreness has almost nothing to do with your ability to make any progress. It's as they say, you get results from an effective stimulus, you get sore from a novel stimulus. Just do something new. I remember one time I had this really rigorous core workout routine. And it was like all these exercises and really intense and stuff. And it's like, okay, my core is strong and everything. And then I went out with some friends and we went golfing and my abs were sore the next day. And so then I was like, well, I guess I need to, golf 9 holes every week if I want core to be strong and stuff. It's like, no, not at all. It's just because it was new. It's just because it was different. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So don't get caught up in soreness or how just exactly a muscle feels. Look at your performance. If you're doing something better with your body, you're getting in better shape. Same thing with my kicking today, right? In my Taekwondo, I'm like, my kicks are so much looser. I'm faster. I'm stronger. I'm moving with more poise and balance and stuff like that. Am I going to be sore tomorrow? Was I terribly out of breath and sweating and stuff? Probably not. Was I doing better though? Yes. And that's what you base your progress on. That's what you base the success of your workouts on. Because sometimes you can go even backwards. And that's why sometimes I would go and I would wear uncomfortable shoes or ride my bike at the worst time of the day and stuff, is because I was looking and seeking that discomfort. I was seeking soreness. I was seeking those feedback mechanisms, which I thought meant that my workouts were effective, when in reality, because I was seeking those things, I was compromising my ability to perform. So I was literally holding myself back, trying to embrace the things I thought were signs of success. And instead, it should have been the opposite way. If you find a way to make it more effective as far as a performance standpoint, that's what you want to go after. And don't be too hung up on these correlative things such as muscle soreness. Karsten, hi from Denmark. Good to see you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for always educating videos and books. Why did you switch from kettlebells? I don't think I ever switched from kettlebells. Kettlebells have always been kind of a fringe discipline for me. I got into using them a little bit, back in the early 2000s when Dragon Door was starting to make kettlebells kind of the popular thing out there. Like back then, like kettlebells, it was all Dragon Door, Pavel Tsatsouline and stuff, Enter the Kettlebell. The only place you could ever get kettlebells was 1 or 2 places online. If you went down to the local sporting goods store and ask for kettlebells, they'd be like, what the hell is a kettlebell? Like, I bought a kettlebell, a 30 pounder one time. I brought it into the gym and people were looking at it like it was some sort of an alien technology. They'd be like, what is that? I don't understand. What is this weird weight that you brought in? Like, was this part of a piece of machinery or something in a junkyard? Like, nobody knew what it was. So I got into a little bit of the exoticness because, of course, when things get new, it's this new exotic, fancy thing that you can use and stuff. And of course, it's fundamentally, it's just like anything else. It's not really that different. But of course, it was all about getting the hips engaged in the posterior chain and ground-based exercise, which at the time was, everyone else was doing, functional training, one leg on Bosu balls and things like that. So it's always been kind of this thing that I was like sort of into for the exoticness of it. And I just liked kind of playing around with it, but it was never a big thing for me. I've tried to get like into the kettlebell, like Kool-Aid kind of thing, but I just never really got into it because my interest has always been very much along the lines of like a bodybuilder-esque kind of approach, like curls, tricep extensions, leg extensions, squatting, leg press movements, rows, things like that. And a lot of kettlebell stuff is all about that hip hinge. You read some of the basic kettlebell books and stuff, and it's like hip hinge, hip hinge, hip hinge. It's almost all extension work kind of thing. When I was leafing through like Enter the Kettlebell, and Pavel's images there, it's like, okay, this is a snatch. This is a press. This is a jerk. I'm looking at going like, it's all the same stuff. Like there's nothing different here. It's basically shoulder work kind of stuff, kind of idea, which technically it's not, but I'm looking at it thinking that same thing. Like, where do you do curls? Like, how do you get curls in with kettlebells sort of stuff? So it's always been on the fringe and I like to play around with it a little bit, but it was never a big thing. I was never like a kettlebell guy sort of thing. So that's why I'm not getting away from it because I was never really that much into it. But I do use it a lot as a coach because it's a very good, efficient training method for teaching people. Pedro asking, I have been doing the same routine for 2 months. I train the 7 days of the week doing push, pull, squats, dips, pull-ups, yada, yada. I've been increasing 1 rep per week on each exercise. How to progress? Well, you already are. So there's many ways you can progress. Refer to my second book, Smart Bodyweight Training, with the table of elements, progressive elements. There's 9 elements in that table. 9 ways to progress. But we can't know how to progress until we know what you're trying to accomplish from these goals, from these exercises. You've mentioned great exercises here. Squats, push-ups, dips, pull-ups, great, awesome. But if you could use those same exercises if you're a bodybuilder, you would use those same exercises if you were a soccer player. You would use those same exercises if you were trying to be stronger as a firefighter or something. But for every one of those goals, I would program them completely differently. In one instance, I might be like, good, you're adding reps. Good. That's exactly what you want to do. Another instance, they're like, no, you don't want to add reps hardly at all. You want to be doing other things. So it depends entirely on what you want to get out of them. So adding the repetitions is certainly one aspect of it, but you can also progress many ways. However, what I really recommend you do is instead of looking at that is just get more well-versed in progressive calisthenics theory with how to progress push-ups, pull-ups into more advanced techniques. That's a good way to go with advancing the technique itself, the progressive calisthenics methods. I'll be coming out with a progressive calisthenics and a weighted calisthenics book later this year, as a matter of fact. But don't wait that long. Check out Convict Conditioning, check out Smart Bodyweight Training, and even just check out on my YouTube channel, Basic Progressive Calisthenics Methods, and that will get you going there as well. But again, it kind of depends on what you're trying to progress towards exactly. Gerard, hey Matt, would love to hear your take on fatigue management habits. Okay, great, awesome, good for a next point on simple things that make a big difference. Excuse me, a drink here. So fatigue management, it kind of depends on what the fatigue's coming from. Do you mean fatigue in a workout or fatigue in general? So simple things that make a big difference. Number one of the simplest things that can make such a radical difference in every aspect of your health and fitness and the quality of your life by far is a good night's sleep. In fact, if you came to me and you were like, Matt, I want to start taking my health more seriously. How should I exercise or how should I eat and stuff? I'd be like, before you do any of that, what's your sleep look like? I would put sleep above diet and exercise. It's that important. Plus, when you're well rested and you're getting better sleep, your ability to handle better dietary habits and better workouts increases dramatically. Now, I'm speaking somewhat from experience because over the past couple of years, I've had a job that has been getting me up at 4 a.m. And I'm not much of a morning guy, but that sucked. And at first, people are like, yeah, it kind of sucks, but you kind of get used to it kind of stuff. It's like, okay, yeah. And I kind of got a little more used to it and stuff, but I never did. It always sucked. It always compromised my workouts. It compromised my mood. It compromised my energy. It compromised my ability to recover whenever I was sick and stuff. It just was a suppressor on my body, mind, and lifestyle at all times. And I stopped working there a couple of months ago, and it was like taking the brakes off. My workouts are better. My diet is better. My attitude is better. Everything in my life is getting better purely because I'm getting better sleep. Just that. So again, boring habits, right? No one's going to talk on social media about their extreme sleep habits and stuff. If anything, people brag about how little they can, quote, get by on. Well, screw that. You don't want to get by when it comes to habits. I don't want to get by. I want to thrive. I want to be above and beyond my mediocre days. I want to be awesome. And you're not going to do that if your sleep sucks. It's that simple. So get a good night's sleep. Try to get to bed at a good, reasonable hour. Some of us are night owls. Some of us like to sleep in the morning. That's perfectly fine. I'm not going to tell you when you got to go to bed and when you got to get up, but try to keep your sleep schedule somewhat consistent. So that's by far the most important aspect. Number 2, make sure your diet is not energy draining. That's huge for when it comes to fatigue. And this can go several ways, because a lot of times if we're eating way too much and too much crap food and too much processed foods and stuff like that, we're just kind of dragging through the day. You go out to lunch with some friends and afterwards you're just like, oh God, I need a nap kind of thing. Not very conducive. There's a lot of fatigue inducing dietary habits, but it goes the other way when it comes to not eating enough. When the low carb thing hit years ago, all of a sudden, like so many of the people I was training, they'd be like, I'm good, but man, I can only run a couple miles before I start hitting the wall. Or I'm good in the gym for like 20, 30 minutes. And then suddenly I'm just dragging through my workout. It's like, yeah, fuel sucks kind of thing. So pay attention to how your dietary habits are affecting your energy level. I always tell people, especially if you're looking to lose weight, by far your biggest resource is your energy level. By far, guard that with your life. When your energy level sucks, everything you're trying to do becomes 10 times harder and half as effective. Your diet becomes a lot harder to stick to. Your workouts become a slog and they're far less effective. But when your energy level is going up, suddenly it reverses. And it's almost effortless to go through a great workout and to stick to a healthier diet. And it's going to be different for everybody. So just pay attention to food. Portion size is a huge one. That's another big, small thing that makes a big difference. People way overthink nutrition when 90% of what you really need to do when it comes to a healthier diet and improving things like your energy level and stuff is just changing the portion sizes. You don't even need to change your diet half the time. You just got to increase this and decrease that. A little bit more of the fruits and vegetables, a little bit less of the beer and the candy bars. Right? You don't have to make these radical, huge changes to your diet. Just kind of modify a little bit less there, a little bit more there, and see what that does to your energy level and your ability to recover in your workouts. Fatigue also, mental fatigue, right? Stress. For the love of God, do not watch the news. Things like that. Anything that's causing emotional and mental stress that's totally unnecessary, get it out of your life. Seriously. Get that stuff drained out, because that's going to create as much fatigue as anything else. It doesn't matter if it's not physical inducing. Like you can watch the news for 20 minutes and it's not exhausting physically, but then you get up afterwards and just mentally you're just kind of in a fog, right? It's like, get rid of that stuff. Get rid of the negativity. If it doesn't need to be in your life, get rid of it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you're saying I shouldn't really care about what's going on in Ukraine and what's going on in the political this and that. And it's like, well, 9 times out of 10, it's just high school gossip. He said, she said stuff. I don't give a damn what some politician said about some other politician. And there it's just high school gossip. That's all it is. But it's taking a lot of mental and emotional bandwidth from you. It's stealing it from you. It's robbing it right out of your chest and leaving you with less. And you're just giving it away, and they benefit because they sell the ads and the attention and everything like that. So just get rid of it. Trust me, you're going to be better off for it. When people ask me, they're like, Matt, where do you get your news? I'm like, simple, topgear.com. They're like, Top Gear? The car site? I'm like, yeah, I want to know when the next Ferrari's coming out. They're like, that's not too topical. I'm like, what are you talking about? I want to know what's going on in electric vehicles. This is pretty cool. You see what Lotus is developing? That's the news I get. And I'm like, well, how do you know? It's like, hey, I just mentioned Ukraine, didn't I? If it's really actually important, you'll learn about it anyway. Don't worry about it. But when it's not something that is going to be contributing to your energy and stuff, it's just going to be a lot of fatiguing. Let's go with some more. D Wolf. Hey, Matt, sounds like you're familiar with Stephen Geis's 1 push-up challenge. Yeah, micro habits. Am I saying that right? Micro habits. That sounds off in my mind. I've read his book several times, but some reason that title doesn't sound right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I discovered it this week can't get much easier than that. Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to small things that make big differences, a lot of times the best thing to do is just start. And what's the smallest act of habit or motion you can do to start the wheel moving? So this happens all the time when it comes to exercise. 1 push-up, like Stefan was talking about. Do 1 push-up, put your running shoes on, fill your water bottle, get your bike out of the garage. Whatever that smallest step is, that's all you got to do. And then momentum takes over, right? A lot of times when we're looking at something we want to accomplish and you're like, I've got this big, huge thing ahead of me, it becomes this overwhelming thing that we feel like we've got to climb Mount Everest. But if you can get down to the smallest, littlest thing and just make that the objective every single day, like what's the smallest thing I need to do to exercise every day? What's the smallest thing I need to do to eat better first thing in the morning, right? For me, drink a glass of water. I get up, I drink a glass of water, bang, points on the board. One of my mentors, Zach Evanish, always talks about making your bed first thing in the morning. He's like, you start the day off with something productive, something small that you can do that gets points on the board and gets things moving forward. And then that's like, well, I just did that. And now I'm on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it stacks up versus, and we've all had this where we get up and we're like, okay, I'll just kind of slog through my morning and I'll just check email and social media and watch TV and stuff. And you haven't had a good breakfast. You haven't made your bed. You're still in your pajamas. It's the cliches that we always heard about during COVID, during the lockdowns and everything. And it's like 2 PM and you still haven't done anything all day, right? And that just the momentum's just not there. Good luck getting much more accomplished during the rest of the day. So you want to get up and get things moving right away. And yeah, whether it's 1 push-up or it's making your bed or drinking a glass of water or whatever that small thing is, that's what you need to do. All right. Travis S., that might be the coolest thing I've heard you say it. Thank you very much, Travis. I certainly appreciate it. Let's see what else we can address. So simple things, big differences, simple things. That's what we want to address. What are some of your best ideas that you can put with here in the RDP community? We would love to hear from you because we've all got great ideas. Would love to hear from you. Pedro asking, I would like to improve my fitness. First, I want to improve calisthenics tricks, but my fatigue practicing this exercise was really high and impossible for me to maintain it. That way I'm focusing on health. So, here's another one. I get this one a lot from folks who are looking to make changes. And to a degree, it's something to consider, but not always. Where they're like, okay, first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this other thing, and then I'm going to work on this other thing. Now, of course, sometimes in life, that's how it works, right? You need to walk before you learn to run, sort of thing. If you want to learn how to become a juggler of flaming chainsaws, you start off with, the little beanbag balls kind of thing. But one of the big mistakes that I find hold people back is they fail to recognize that everything's kind of interconnected, and that your exercises that help you burn calories and lose weight are also exercises that can improve your ability to be stronger and faster and more powerful. It's all kind of one big soup, if you will. But when people are like, okay, first I'm going to lose the weight, then I'm going to try building the muscle, then I'm going to learn how to, juggle flaming chainsaws or whatever, right? What ends up happening a lot of times is you get stuck on that first step for years, and you actually could be making progress in the other things as well, but you're putting it off. I don't recommend it. So when you're talking here about calisthenics skill work, what I recommend is very simple. One skill for the next 3 months. That's all you're allowed to do. One skill. Handstands, front levers, working on towards a planche, whatever it is. One skill. Don't spread yourself out too far, and don't make the point of your workouts skill work. So you could have, let's say, for example, you're working on the front lever. Awesome, great, works the back wonderfully. Nice. Work that a few times. You get some fatigue. Awesome, great. Then go into some rows and some push-ups and some lunges and other things like that. Build off of it a little bit as well. Don't put your other goals on a contingency plan of, I can only start working on that once I get this thing done. No, do that a little bit, great. And then also work on other things. You can get multiple things done at the same time. It's not necessarily compromising it. And let's see. And when it comes to fatigue, so remember, when it comes to skill work, practice, we want practice. And the formula for practice, a lot of volume, low fatigue. So you can't push yourself very hard with the skill work. Okay? If you came to me and you're like, I want strength or muscle and stuff, I'm like, great, we're embracing fatigue. We're going to drive it like the workout program I talked about last week. 2 sets per exercise. That's all you get. So you're going to hammer the mother living hell out of that exercise. But if you're like, but I want to learn front lever, I'm like, okay, great. You want to do exactly the opposite. We don't want you getting terribly fatigued. So this is not a game of how long can you hold the front lever. It's like, well, I can hold a knee tucked front lever. My knees are bent 90 degrees. Great. How long can you hold it for? About 10 seconds. Good. No more than 3 seconds. And you're going to do it again and again and again and again. A grease the groove approach, right? Grease the groove, where you do it several times throughout the day and every single day. And you're just going to build that sucker up a lot faster because you want the volume. You need practice to improve skills. If you have a lot of fatigue, you can't get a lot of volume. You can't get a lot of practice. It's going to be a much harder uphill battle to go with. Excuse me. Matt CS is saying, looking very healthy in your 40s, bro. Thank you very much. I'm feeling very healthy. I am ironically in the best shape of my life. And it is true. People in their 40s, when they say they're in the best shape of their life, aren't really in great shape when they were younger. That was absolutely the case for me, for sure. When people are like, wouldn't it be great if you could go back to when you were younger and you could, you were so resilient and pain-free and everything was so much easier. I'm like, God, that was not the case for me at all. I was riddled with injuries before I learned how to drive. But Matt C asks, since you're from Colorado, you've been to Garden of the Gods? I have been. Although ironically, I think the one and only time I've been there was when I did not live here. We came out here. I've been out here a couple times to kind of check out the place before I decided to move out here. And I think we saw the Garden of the Gods, as a touristy thing to do. And now I live out here, and it's actually not very far from me, and haven't been there since, sort of thing. It's true what they say. You never do the touristy stuff in the area where you live. Sal Virgin asking, hey Matt, which rack is that and how big? Looking for something for my apartment patio. That's a Bodyweight Master from Dragon Door. They don't make them anymore, unfortunately. But I recommend the Mill Spec pull-up bar from Rogue. That's pretty good. It's a bit bigger than that one, but by my calculations and measurements, it usually works fairly good for a lot of apartments and patios and stuff. Might fit. Make sure you do your measurements and stuff, but just go to rogue.com and check that out. Put on a couple of rings and stuff on that, and you're good. So speaking of rings, when it comes to simple things that make big difference, I recommend that everybody have in their home something they can hang from. And this would be my platform if I ever ran for public office. It'd be like a chicken in every pot and a pull-up bar in every home. And a lot of people would be like, but Matt, I can't do pull-ups. It's like, no, not to do pull-ups. Although that's cool if you can. It's to have something to hang from. Being able to hang off of something overhead does wonders for your shoulders, opening up your chest, your breathing, your posture. Back issues can be not prevented or cured or anything, but it just helps to elongate that spine, opens up the shoulders, improves your grip strength. You can do all kinds of things that hanging from it, even if you can't do pull-ups, like hanging leg raises, and you can hang stuff from it, like rings and suspension straps. I mean, suspension straps are basically a weight machine you can put in your pocket. So the simplest way to make big changes when it comes to an equipment standpoint is have something to hang from. Whether you have a doorway pull-up bar, like the Duonomic pull-up handles that I highly recommend. The link is down below in the description for those if you're curious to learn more. Or you can have a pull-up bar installed, on your wall or hanging from your ceiling, floor joists in a basement or a garage. You could have a freestanding rack like the Bodyweight Master sort of thing. Doesn't matter, just something to hang from. It's quite possibly the simplest and easiest thing you can do to make a big difference and give you a lot of options when it comes to being able to exercise without having to have a gym membership. Something to hang from, Very key. More important, I would say, than weights, more important than bands and stuff. If you can hang, you've got a lot more going for you than you may think. My fitness journey is asking, hey, Matt, as a mom, I implement a more intuitive approach to training. Yes, depending on how good or bad night's sleep I had the night before and so on. But sometimes I have the sensation I'm not progressing. Very good. And it's a good thing to consider too, because a lot of times when people are like, how do I know if I'm progressing? I'm like, if you're asking me, you're probably not, kind of thing. I'm a big believer that progress should be self-evident. Results and progress should be one of those things that makes such an impact that you're like, oh, wow, that is so much better than before. Now, granted, I've run into several people over the course of my years of training where they could have big results happen and they still question it. Like, because they get too hung up on a single metric. Happens a lot with weight loss and weight. They're like, I'm not making any progress because the scale on the number scale hasn't changed at all. And I'd be like, well, how are your clothes fitting? Oh, great. Like, I'm down a size and my belt is on 3 notches tighter and stuff. I'm like, how's your energy level? How are you feeling? Like, everything's good. But that scale's not moving because they're too emotionally invested in that damn number. So sometimes that can happen for sure. But in general, I really do believe that results should be like getting hit in the shin with a baseball bat. Not a lot of mystery that it's happening, right? So if you're asking, maybe not. So that's why I always recommend you have one of the simplest things to help ensure your progress in your workouts. Keep a workout log. And I know workout logs are terribly tedious, and I hate doing spreadsheets and little boxes myself. That's why I created the scoreboard progression method. The scoreboard progression log uses a single sheet of paper, or you can do a whiteboard. The first scoreboard I ever created was a giant whiteboard in my basement, or you can have just a note app on your phone, and it makes keeping your workouts and your progress logged super simple, like ridiculously easy to do. And I do it for all my clients, and it's a good way to know for sure if you are making progress. And the way that you do that, I wrote it out in an ebook. It's totally free. It is on reddeltaproject.com. If you go to the tab, I think it's resources or free resources. I'm blanking on the name of it, but if you search the menu at the top there, eventually you'll get to one that says free ebooks, and you can have all of those ebooks completely free. I don't even want your email address. I don't care about email lists. They're ridiculous. I hate sending out emails anyway. Just click on the link and it is yours, and read that. It's a quick read. It'll take you like 15, 20 minutes to get through it. And that's how you use your scoreboard progression log. And it will make knowing if you're making progress and tracking progress, the impetus for guiding you towards progress, so much simpler and easier. And you won't have to ask me that question, because you will know that you're making progress, because you will be making progress. All right. Tim Fritters, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hey, Matt, is it bad to work out before going to sleep? The evening is the only moment of the day I really have time. No, not at all. I used to work out all the time in college. I would hit the gym at like 10 p.m. And the University of Vermont gym was open at 10 to 11 at night. And I would do my workout and boom, crash out for sure. So no, go for it. Be your best judge about it, though. Some people I know, they're like, oh, I worked out and now I'm like wired and I can't get to sleep. That was never a thing for me. I would work out and be like, that was a great workout. Now I'm tired. I'm going to bed kind of thing, because it's still at night. It's still, especially if you have some sort of a wind down routine, going back to the importance of sleep. If you have a wind down routine, like, okay, I take my shower and then I have like a cup of tea, maybe that doesn't have caffeine in it. And then I read a book. And then maybe I meditate for 5-10 minutes, whatever you may do. And then you crash out. And that's the way to go about it. Let's see what other can we get. I had a question that was asked earlier, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten to that. Let's see here. Dave is asking, I like the straps with the numbers for simplicity and tracking. Yeah, some of the straps, so I don't know if you can quite see, but some of the straps, like the duonomic rings that go along with those duonomic pull-up handles, they use a daisy chain method that makes it real easy to track the height of your handles and stuff. I'm talking about meditation, that's another very simple thing that can make a big difference, because I think now especially we've got all the digital distractions and stuff, which I know ironies of ironies with this podcast and everything. And I've got a camera pointed at me, and I've got a computer, and I've got all this other digital stuff. I think now it's more important than ever to have some sort of a habit that we can keep where we're like, okay, life, shut up. Like, everybody turn off, unplug. And for me, the best way to do that is get out and walk. That's it. Possibly one of the simplest, best forms of exercise I think we can do for both mind and body is walking. I was asked on a podcast one time, what's my favorite exercise? Walking. By far. You don't need any special equipment. You don't need any special skills. You don't need a special routine. You don't need hardly anything. You just go outside and you go out for a walk. And it's very good for the mind and the body. And we need this opportunity to let the mind digest and process, because our mind utilizes information the same way our body utilizes food. We consume, and then when we digest, we break everything down. So carbohydrates get broken down into sugars, protein gets broken down to amino acids, and fat gets broken down into triglycerides. And then the body says, okay, where do we put these building blocks of nutrition where we need them to go, kind of thing, right? Your body digests food for use. But I don't think we do that enough mentally, because we're consuming, we're taking in information all the time. But when do we get the chance to just stop and digest the information so we can actually use it? Right? If information was the answer, we'd have solved world hunger by now. We'd have solved cancer and world peace and everything, because we've got far more information now at our fingertips, literally, than we ever have had in human history. And it's not solving our problems. It's not exactly helping us. You could make the case, of course, that it's actually making things worse. So what we need to do is, instead of just consuming information, digesting it and figuring out the best ways to utilize it. And I think having a meditation process, or anything where you can just get out and let your brain kind of decompress and unplug, is so vital towards our health and well-being, to be able to control our reaction to things too. Because you see that too a lot of times when people come across stuff on social media or on the news and stuff like that, and bang, we just react. We're not thinking, we're not trying to realize, like, okay, let me think about what this person's saying over the next couple of days and see if they've got a point and where would they be right about that. No, we just come across the post. We only read like 5 sentences before we get through even half of it, and bang, we're doing nasty comments and stuff like that. we're not rational human beings. Humans are not rational. We're emotional. And that's the problem, is we are so easily triggered now because we're just consuming information at such a rapid pace, and we're not taking the time to digest the information to really put it into proper perspective and use it very well. Otherwise, it's just like eating something and throwing it right back up again or sending it right through yourself. You're not utilizing it. What's the point in even consuming it? And we got that whole knowledge is power sort of thing. We way overvalue information, way overvalue, just like how we overvalue hard work. But you can work your ass off and learn everything there is to know and still be an asshole and still be a complete loser and still not do anything. Hard work and information is not going to save you from the ills that you're trying to avoid. Utilizing that stuff in a very productive way will. All right. Let's see what other things I can get to. I know I'm talking a lot, so I'm missing some of you folks. Apologies for that sort of thing. Dave is chiming in. I found that working out at night interferes with sleep if it's more practice GTG style than burnout bodybuilding style. So yeah, it could be something that gets you one way or the other. For me personally, funny thing is, if I work my legs hard, I am out. I am completely zonked out. Whenever I work my legs pretty hard, I need to take a nap in the afternoon. So be aware, again, of your energy level. How do things influence your energy level? Esteban, drinking a lot of water with some salt added before a workout gives a big boost to my performance. And then continue drinking during rest, small things, but big payoff. Thank you very much, Esteban. Yeah, and he's got the right thing here. Like, you don't need to go out and buy Gatorades and Powerades and stuff like that. We used to do that a lot in mountain biking. You take water, a little bit of salt for some electrolyte, the sodium, put some lemons in there. Boom, there you go. You've got your own little energy drink for you. Tea is a big one for me when it comes to simple things that can make a big difference. Tea is one of the best, when people are like, weight loss tea, look at my weight loss tea on social media. All tea could be weight loss tea. Anything with caffeine, if there was ever a way that we could create a reliable, effective weight loss drug, it's caffeine by far. It's simple, it's cheap, it's efficient, relatively safe when consumed without extremes, regulates the appetite, improves your energy level. I mean, everything you want from a weight loss drug comes with caffeine. Plus, sometimes hot liquids can mitigate your appetite a little bit. Tea is one of those things that just lots of benefits. Plus, it's like cheap as dirt too. You get a box of tea for like $5, and that is gallons of fluid kind of thing. It's almost as cheap as water when you really break it down. Let's see, what else can we address here? Tea, I got that. Tim Mayer was at the gym yesterday after 3 years and realized I didn't need 90% of their equipment. So funny story. I totally relate to you. I know exactly what you mean. I used to be a big equipment guy. I mean, look at all these toys that I got here behind me, right? I'm a bodyweight guy. How in the hell do I have all of this as a bodyweight guy? It's kind of ridiculous. But I used to believe that equipment was the key to getting results because I worked in the equipment field. I built and sold home gyms and stuff. So local gym was built near where I lived, and it was all the fancy toys, all the fancy, cool, awesome stuff, hammer strength equipment and everything. And I practically begged them to let me work there, which I did get a job. Thank you. And I was like, great, I'm totally on Easy Street. This is awesome. I got all the toys and stuff. And the funny thing was, we had a representative, a sales rep from Life Fitness come in. And this is a man whose job is literally to convince us to buy more equipment, to stock the gym with more equipment. And he literally went through the gym going, you don't need that, get rid of it. You don't need that, get rid of it. Why do you have that? You've got 5 of them already. You don't need that over there either. Get rid of it. So that's how ridiculously overstocked this gym was. But the real fun thing was I used everything in that gym. I used every little piece. I mean, we had 4 different calf machines, for Christ's sake. It was ridiculous, right? And I fell into working out with a group of friends. When I would work there, they would come in and they would work out, and I just kind of hang out with them kind of thing. And over the course of about 2 years or so, their influence on their workouts, on mine, and we started to gravitate. And instead of using the entire gym and every piece of equipment I could possibly use, because you got to attack every muscle from 15 different angles supposedly, and my workout evolved to the point where we only hung out in this one little corner of the gym, because that one little corner had the dumbbells, the pull-up bar, and the dip bars. And that was all that we were using. And it wasn't like we were trying to be minimalist or anything like that. It's just we started to say, well, what do we really need to do and what works best? And it's like heavy dumbbells, bar and pull-up rack and dips. And that was about it. And floor space. We needed floor space, of course. And everything else just kind of went by the wayside. And ever since then, now, of course, with the chain training approach I have, push, pull, squat. You go through a gym and it's like, it's just another pull, just another pull. That's another pull. That's another pull. There's another pull. God, they've got 15 different ways of making applesauce here. It's like the same thing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it's fun to have new toys. It's fun to have different things. That's great. Is it necessary? By all means, no. I can get more of an effective workout with a simple set of suspension straps from NOSC for $30 than I could in that entire gym with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And it's not because of the equipment, it's because I know what I'm doing with it. Sean Fred saying, hey, Matt, any ideas for size strength imbalances? Very good. Lats, obliques, serratus. I do unilateral movements. Good. Awesome there. Despite mentally focusing on my left, all I feel is my right. Little to no results. So yeah, make sure you feel those muscles working, because it's incredibly important to feel how it's working during the thing. If you don't feel like it's working, it's probably not working all that well. So unilateral is good and stuff. Isometrics, are you able to just engage those muscles at will, period? So like your right lat, and like, okay, great, engaged, got it. All right, left lat is back there somewhere, I think, maybe, kind of, right? So make sure you can just even engage it to begin with. You can only work a muscle to the degree you can engage it. So if you have trouble engaging it, nothing you do will ever work. So make sure you can engage it, maybe incorporate some overcoming isometrics that can work well with that. And that's another very simple thing I'll get into in a second here. But overcoming isometrics, make sure you can engage the muscles at will. And the better you engage them, the more they will work with the regular exercises, and it will work things out as far as those imbalances. Welsh Boyuk 76. I'm into foraging at the moment and make my own teas from stingy nettles, cleavers, dandelions, etc. Very good. I've heard of dandelion tea, and some people really like it. I've had turmeric tea as well lately. I've been getting into that as well as a aid for recovery. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but it tastes really good. Okay, but speaking on our theme, small things that make a big difference, right? Overcoming isometrics, people. I wrote a book on it for a reason. And this is one of the few times in my life where I went from no knowledge about something whatsoever, experimented with it for a month or two, and immediately started to write a book on it. Why? Because it was so unbelievably important. And when I went on Amazon and I typed in overcoming isometrics, nothing came up. Now, overcoming isometrics, again, is different from yielding isometrics. Yielding isometrics is where you have a set level of resistance. Like if I hold a dumbbell out to my side, okay, that's a yielding isometric. My muscle has to work hard enough to hold that dumbbell up. If it works harder, it lifts it up. If it works less hard, it lowers it down. So it's a fixed resistance. An overcoming isometric is when you're pushing or pulling against something that cannot move. So the amount of potential for tension in your muscle is theoretically infinite. So overcoming isometrics, and incorporate that with the World Fit ISO Trainer. Again, link is down below if you want to learn more. All my resources are down below in the description. You can see it hanging up over there, though it's not the best picture. I apologize. But it's like $30. You could do anything with it. It's very versatile, super easy to use, extremely efficient, extremely potent and powerful, and it's also portable. And if there's anything out there that can increase your chances of safer and more effective strength training, by far it is overcoming isometrics. By far, it is in a league on of itself, because your entire potential as an athlete, the potential to build muscle, the potential to minimize stress around joints, all of this boils down entirely to your ability to contract your muscles at will. And frankly, most of us suck at that, or at least suck at it for some of the muscles. I don't know many people who have really good neuromuscular activation of their entire body. Almost never happens. It's extremely rare for someone to be like that. Those are the super uber gifted athletes, the ones who are like, so this is a basketball, huh? And they're shooting like half court shots 3 days later kind of stuff. But for the most part, we all need to learn how to use our muscles better. And until we do, nothing will ever be all that effective, because that is the limiting linchpin. Your muscles are driven by your nervous system. They're not, I always tell people, it makes them kind of go a little, what? Exercises do not work your muscles. It's not the exercise that works it. Your muscles engage, and the degree they engage and how hard they work and how long they work is entirely down to your thoughts. Your brain controls your muscle. If I snip the nerves between your brain and your muscle is just boom, completely shot and does not engage no matter what. So you need to condition your nervous system as well. And it's real quick and it's real easy to do. And it's very effective with overcoming isometrics. That's why I love it. When I got into overcoming isometrics, I was aware of this concept for many years, and I was struggling to find a way to engage the muscles more proficiently and effectively. And I was using exercises, and there were a few things. It's like, it kind of works. It sort of works. After about 8 months, there might be a difference and stuff. But when I found overcoming isometrics, I made more progress in 24 hours than I had in the previous 2 years. That's how potent this stuff is. And it will make a huge difference in any form of exercise and training that you do from there on out. So overcoming isometrics, folks, I'm not trying to just sell you the book. You don't have to read my book. Don't buy my book. Check out the Overcoming Isometrics playlist here on the RDP YouTube channel for some of those exercises. You don't need to buy the book. It's a concise way to get the information and have a reference, but you don't need it. Okay. You don't need the World Fit ISO strap. You can do it with a towel or like a martial arts belt. A lot of people have told me they do that. That's great. That's awesome. I just think those are the best tools you can get if you really want to take it to the best level you can, but it's not necessary. That's the great thing about overcoming isometrics. Okay. Whew. Esteban asking, hey Matt, if I only do push-ups, dips, push-ups, blah, I can't talk, for upper body, is that enough to work my shoulders properly, do you think? Absolutely, for sure. I always tell the story of Mark. All he did was pull-ups, dips, and push-ups, had shoulders the size of massive coconuts. But, asterisk there, again, it depends on how well you can engage those shoulders. If you can't engage your shoulders very well, nothing you do will work very well. But if you can engage them very well, everything will work very well. There's the caveat for you. So that's why I recommend a lot of times using overcoming isometrics as a warm-up. That's why we put it in the tension phase of the grind style calisthenics workout programs. And if you're really working on shoulders, great. You stand on the iso trainer, boom, shoulder press, lateral kind of thing, just takes a couple seconds. Now your shoulders are much more primed to work. So now anything you do with your upper body will be more effective. Takes 2 minutes to do, real quick, simple, easy, very low risk of injury, and then it makes your workout much more effective. Hell of a lot more satisfying as well. But yeah, it should be if you have that engagement. Mofan Fitness, hey Matt, I'm doing my exercise at home, just really trying to be flexible with my equipment. Really want to get rid of fats. Can you help? Everything I've got can help you lose body fat for sure. Check out my nutrition and healthy eating playlist here on the RDP YouTube channel. And that's going to be something that is helpful as well. Remember though, when it comes down to your result that you're looking for, the general results, build muscle, strength, lose weight, all that sort of thing, remember, it's never going to come from one thing. It's always many things. And if there's any simple thing that's going to make a big difference, it's to use a multifaceted approach to your objectives. Okay, this is what a fundamental approach teaches us, is that your ability to get the result does not come from what diet you follow. It does not depend on sets and reps solely. I don't care if you're lifting kettlebells or dumbbells or whatever. Your results depend on how well you are influencing the fundamental processes of mother and human nature. And nothing in diet and exercise in and of itself can do that. Nothing. Zero. Nothing you do will have that kind of power, which is a good thing. Because if you put all of your eggs in one proverbial basket, like let's say, I'm going to lose all my weight from intermittent fasting. Okay, great, wonderful. That can really slow down your caloric intake. Wonderful. However, every single thing can only have so much influence. Okay. That's why I'm saying we need lots of habits. Because I don't care how well you're fasting. I don't care what your feeding window is and stuff. It can't possibly do a whole lot in and of itself, especially when you consider other influences can completely counteract that influence. It's like I have a 6-hour feeding window. Great, you fasted for all the other hours of the day, and then I went and ate tons of high calorie food during that feeding window and completely put back all the calories you had otherwise, kind of thing. So if you were like, that's my one and only card to play, it's like, okay, you can make something happen with it. But how do you progress that? How do you keep moving forward? Well, more fasting, smaller feeding window instead of fasting 3 days a week, 4 days a week, then 5 days a week, then 6 days a week, then 7 days a week, and a 2-hour feeding. And you see what's going on here? In order to try and maximize the influence of one thing, you have exponentially higher amounts of effort and attention and cost that you've got to spend. So you are driving yourself into the ground, and you're still only one thing, one single influence, and that effect of it is getting smaller and smaller, rate of diminishing return. Technically, it's getting bigger, but the amount of return for the investment that you're putting in is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's why you want a multifaceted approach, because when you have a multifaceted approach, you have lots of things that you're doing. All of them could be relatively small and easy to maintain, but collectively they have a much, much bigger influence. So let's say you really take that intermittent fasting thing and you're like, okay, but I've got a 4-hour window and I'm fasting 6 days a week. And boy, it really hurts. It's so hard. It's so difficult. My energy level's in the toilet. It's so difficult, but I'm starting to move the needle a little bit. Well, one, you're standing on one leg. So if you somehow mess that up, boom, you got nothing. It's like diversifying investments in the stock market. You get that one stock to tank, you're screwed. So you've got all that effort to one thing. You set yourself way up for compensation because you're not paying attention to all the other things that can easily adjust, even subconsciously, to counteract all of your efforts. So now you're putting in a ton of effort, barely getting anything out of it, and you've got nowhere to go, right? It's like, well, what are you going to do? Fast for 7 days a week? Fast even more, even more, and even more. Eventually you get to a point you're like, I can't keep this up. But if you have a multifaceted approach, I'm like, okay, I'm going to skip meal, dinner, 3 nights a week. Okay, great. What else are you going to do? I'm going to drink some more water and cut back on alcohol and sugary beverages. Good. What else are you going to do? I'm going to start being physically active every single day, increase my caloric output. Good. What else are you going to do? I'm going to start to make sure that I'm building up some muscle and strength. Good. What else are you going to do? Every single one of these things can be relatively easy to do. And that's the key. Small habits that build up. I think this is still atomic habits territory. Stephen Guy's in his micro habits books, right? Small things, but it collectively adds up to a much bigger result that's much easier to maintain. And that's the real secret. It's not a big thing that you do. It's lots of little things that collectively add up over time. And that's how we get and maintain much better results. Because if you came to me and asked me like, how can I do this and do that? It's like, dude, it's like 50 things that I do to be able to be in the shape I'm in. It's not one thing. It's not calisthenics. It's not overcoming isometrics. It's not any one thing. All of that plays a role, and it's an important role, but it's a small role, and it's supposed to be small. It's not supposed to be a very big thing. Sniff rat saying, please don't step on the cat. Hello, Scott. I have 2 cats. They're usually in the back room when I do these podcasts, but I've decided to let them roam today because she used to meow a whole lot, and it's one of those things that is difficult to manage 2 cats when they're meowing around. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so tricky to manage them. But let me get to a couple last questions here real quick before I pull the plug on this puppy. Robert asks, how many sets of pull-ups do you do weekly? As many as I want, or as many as I like. I'm doing now, a lot of my workouts are 2 sets per exercise, but it depends. I have very much a freestyle approach. Like I work as I can and I rest as needed. So sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but it's not something I have a certain amount, because I'm not going to get strong based on how many sets I do. Like, I don't care how many sets you do. That's not the objective. The objective is to thoroughly work the muscle. If it takes 7, it takes 7. If it takes 2, it takes 2. I always use the analogy of hammering in a nail. Carpenters don't care how many times they hit a nail. They just hit the damn thing until it's done. Same thing with muscles. Just hit them and hit them until they're done. Okay. Well, I think it's about time we land this plane. And I thank everybody for coming on, asking questions, having community support and stuff. Is very good. Oh, Mariano, I want to say hi to you, my friend. Thank you for coming on. Haven't seen you here, but small detail that I include in my training is that at least at the end of training, it makes me feel strong. It is subjective and personal, but it helps me with a lot good vibes. What was that? Sorry, I missed it. I guess I missed it somewhere. My bad. Sorry, I think I missed it earlier on. But yeah, don't discredit subjectivity in things very much. Like, yes, the hard science is important, but sometimes doing something just because it feels good, like I talked about in my latest YouTube video, a lot of times our decisions should be based on just the simple fact that we like it, that we enjoy it, that it's something fun to do. And fun may seem trivial in the world of fitness and exercise, but when it comes down to keeping habits and putting a lot of attention towards them, really pushing ourselves, fun is really a very important thing that can really make a big, big deal. Esteban's saying, I think getting outdoors is great help too. Absolutely. Work out in an outdoor gym. I think the sun and fresh air make a big difference. Absolutely. Getting outside is a very simple thing that can make a very big difference. Again, for that mental aspect of stuff. But anyway, I have to run, my friends. It is always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff helps to support the channel. Don't forget to check out all the resources I was mentioning throughout this episode down below in the description for the RDP resources, including the RDP library and the merch over on the RDP merch store over at Spring, and you can get the books in PDF form there as well. But I will talk to you folks next week. Thank you very much for coming on, and I will see you then. Till then, be fit and live free.